Buonasera, ciao a tutti. Oggi faremo la nostra seconda live talk, in realtà. La prima l'abbiamo fatto la settimana scorsa con una nostra amica HR dal Canada. Noi siamo DevUp, io e Alfonso, oggi Alfonso è un po' sick, un po' malato, e quindi ecco la cam spenta. Oggi invece andiamo a fare un piccolo talk con Logan. Parleremo sostanzialmente di lingue, come migliorare l'apprendimento delle lingue o comunque che tipo di path possiamo usare per imparare meglio le lingue, qual è l'English level required from overseas company. And let's start. From now we are going to talk in English. So hello Logan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. And I hope with this conversation today, everybody is able to get at least a little bit of value that they can, take some notes and maybe take some inspiration to further improve their language learning experience. So yeah, I'm very
Yes,
glad to be here.
Logan are going to talk very slow today.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so our speech, we are going to talk about foreign languages. So Logan is an italki teacher, specialized in software engineering field because he is also a dev. Today he's studying Milan at university, computer engineering, right?
Computer science.
Computer science, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, Logan is going to introduce himself and talk about their life, and after maybe 5 to 10 minutes we have some slot dedicated to question and answers. So
All right,
take the floor.
perfect. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, well, as mentioned before, my name is Logan. I am 23. I currently study at university in Milan. I was originally born here, but when I was just a baby, actually 3 months old, I took my very first plane and started to travel the world. My family is multicultural. And so at home, we've always spoken more than one language. And since we had to travel because of my parents' job, we had to live in different countries. My parents decided that I would get my education in English. So I was actually educated in English, and English is still the language that I prefer, that I can express myself best in general. But of course, I'm also bilingual. I speak Italian fluently. I'm native in both languages. And throughout the years, as I was traveling the world, as I was getting used to different cultures, because I lived in Europe, in the UK, in South America, I really decided to embrace different cultures and different languages. And when I was living in the UK, when I was 16 years old, that's where my kind of polyglot experience really started. I decided that I didn't just want to speak Italian and English. I actually wanted to learn more. And I decided that I would start with Spanish. That was the very first language.
So at 16 you start
Yeah,
to learn. Oh, okay.
16, I started from like bilingual to polyglot journey, I guess. Yeah, that was, yeah. Until then, I was only speaking 2 languages fluently. And basically, I started with Spanish because it's such a prevalent language. It's one of the world's most spoken languages. And I was very fascinated by it. I think that in general, for the very first time that you get attracted to something, it has to be, you need to have some form of passion towards that. So Spanish was that for me. I didn't know anything about studying languages at that time. As most of you guys, my experience learning languages was in school, and we all know how very, very terrible it can be to learn a foreign language at school. So besides teachers not being very enthusiastic about teaching the language, to it being very theoretical and not actually putting it into practice at all, regurgitating verbs, tenses would be something I think a lot of us have experienced at school. And so I really didn't have a specific methodology at the time. And I just started through trial and error to kind of get used to the language. Of course, it helps that Spanish is a language that shares a lot of different words with Italian, which was a language that I had already mastered at that point. And I decided to first start learning some vocabulary, just enough so I could, with maybe some Italian words in the middle, get started with speaking the language. And that was the very first step. Was I soon realized that speaking was essential in learning languages, and that you got to speak as fast as possible. You really got to try to begin speaking like at least in the very first few months that you begin learning a new language. So, but we can definitely get into specifically what the best methods are for learning different languages as we talk. Besides, of course, the languages that I have learned, which, by the way, I speak 6 languages now, most of them pretty fluently, I would say. So that would be Italian, English, Russian, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And besides my passion for languages, of course, as Alex mentioned, I'm a computer science student. Before studying computer science, I actually worked as a front-end developer for a little bit after I completed a 6-month boot camp in full stack development. So I kind of tried everything when it comes to learning how to code, the university route, the work route, and the boot camp. And yeah, but basically that's it. Do you wanna start getting into some of the maybe methods or things that we can use to learn languages?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you can say something about so something that you just start to say. It's what is exactly your learning path to master some foreign languages that you didn't know.
Sure. So as I begin to learn more and more than 2 languages, I would really say is when you need to start having some sort of formula to begin learning a new language. Because as like in my case, I was always starting from zero, right? It wasn't just mastering one language to fluent level, but it was okay, and now what? Now we need to start over. So if you don't have some form of pattern or some form of just structure to your language learning journey, it's going to be very difficult to do that. And as I mentioned before, really the key to anything that I will talk about today is the fastest way to learn is to practice. And when it comes to languages, like 90% of it is speaking. And of course, if you don't know anything about a language, you can't speak it. So the very first step is to start with the basics, which in languages, those are words and verbs and adjectives, just the little pieces that make up a language. So I want to draw a very close comparison to kind of when you start coding, you start learning what variables are, right? What kind of variables there are. Maybe then you can learn some form of array. You kind of learn like the basic structure, right? That's the very first step. And I would like to tell everyone that with about 2,500 to 3,000 words, you're using basically 90% of the vocabulary that you will actually
Like a Pareto formula. So
yeah, something like that. So with about 2,000 words, I would say you would feel pretty like decent in a very, let's say, for informal conversation, maybe just talking about your day, your hobbies, your interests, which can be very motivating to someone, because motivation is also extremely important when it comes to learning anything. And if you can speak with someone, if you can speak with someone who's a native speaker and communicate even just about what your day was like, it can be like very good to just keep learning and keep seeing the progress. And so start with the maybe like top 100 words. That can be like the very first thing. Some like top uh 20 verbs. And then from there, you've got the puzzle pieces. You can start putting them together. And by putting them together, you can start forming your sentences, right? And these don't like this doesn't mean that the sentences are necessarily going to be correct. So for that you need the syntax. Exactly. No, you need the syntax, which is in human language would be the grammar, but you can get to that a little bit later. First, it can be just really great if you can start um just making a few sentences. The one thing that I would like to bear in mind, though, is besides without looking immediately into some specific grammar, always learn the sentence structure order, because not every language uses the same structure.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
yeah, exactly. This is something that we kind of, if we only are learning maybe English and Latin languages, we can not think about. But when it comes to languages such as Korean, the sentence structure is completely different.
Reversed.
So, yeah, sorry?
Reversed.
Yeah, exactly. It's reversed. So the sentence structure, just make sure that you've got that and start creating your first sentences. Like it could be something as easy as the apple is on the table, just very, very basic stuff.
Yeah.
But you can really do that. And once you have those first few sentences, start communicating with someone.
Okay,
You don't
perfect.
have to wait to start communicating with someone, right? That's what people think, that they need to wait. Oh, but I don't speak well. Well, if you don't speak, you will never speak well.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. A funny thing about the order of or the construction of the sentence is about Latin. I don't know if you
Mhm.
know Latin. In
Yeah, I know that it's
Latin, we don't have some sort of order in the
yeah,
sentences, so you can only the declination is the
right.
important thing. So you can have a sentence built in different way, but the meaning
Mhm.
is the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Latin, because Latin uses like cases, which is the same with German and Russian languages, actually.
Okay,
So you can always find, it's very interesting with languages, you can always find some common patterns that can help you. Yeah.
okay,
So it can be very interesting. But talking about also something that maybe some people don't think about is trying to actually train your ear to the language that you are starting to learn, because the sounds that your mouth will have to make will be very uncomfortable for most languages, right? You'll have to twist your tongue in ways you've
yeah.
never had
Uh,
before.
like think this
Yeah,
type
sure. Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't exist. One question about this, because I think that a lot of people um, doesn't know if the subtitle is necessary or not. What's your
Uh,
opinion?
when you're watching movies,
Yeah, movies or like YouTube
anything
videos.
with YouTube, anything, right? I would say it depends really on how good your ear is. Some people have just a very, it's very easy for them to listen to spoken English and they can get it right away. I would say, I mean, most Italian, if we're talking about Italian speakers, it's already a huge step to go from hearing it like dubbed in Italian, right? Because that's how most people in Italy watch foreign content, right? It's dubbed, especially movies, right? Um, then of course, like if you can switch the subtitles, that's great. That's already a great step. If you can do it without, and it's a little bit uncomfortable, and it will be in the beginning, just like be patient. That's the same maybe when people start listening to podcasts in English, it's like, oh my God, I don't understand anything.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you're
For
patient,
me, for
yeah.
example, I need to see the person who speaks.
Mm,
So if I listen a podcast,
yeah.
I found some difficult.
Yeah, it can be a little bit difficult, but again, be patient and just try to force yourself, because maybe you need to pay extra attention. Maybe when you listen to a podcast in Italian, you can kind of cook, clean, do whatever. Maybe
Yeah.
if it's in English, you need to focus, concentrated, like a full attention to it. So that can be a little bit of a challenge, but it's just about getting used to it. It's really all that is. But in not just listening, but when it comes to you talking, don't be afraid to try to sound native.
Okay.
Don't feel A lot of people feel embarrassed to try to make different sounds, feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a main thing here will be like get out of your comfort zone and speak and challenge yourself to do things that maybe feel embarrassing, because it's embarrassing to go and try to make some odd roll like R sound,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You're right.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's okay, and no one's really, I would say, people who speak English as a first language, rarely I've ever heard of someone say they make fun of people who are learning English as a second language. Most people who speak English as a first language don't speak any other language.
Yeah.
So you should really not feel scared to um, speak to them with your accent, because that actually just shows that you are already a speaker of a second language, which is more than most English speakers. So that's just more power to you. And I would say also get used to different accents, not only when you talk to
Okay.
someone. Yeah,
So, okay. Okay. You mean something like I listen some video from Britain people and
sure.
from Australian.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, push yourself. Okay, so most people I think that are here, they maybe want to also go and work for international companies. Those
Yeah.
are most of the students that I work with. Um, since they're hiring you and you're from you're not an English native speaker, that's probably not a requirement for the company, and that means that your team will be very diverse, and that's awesome. And that means different people from different parts of the world with different accents. Not everyone is a native speaker. So that means you need to get used to Russian accent, Polish accents, French accents, right? And that's something a lot of the times people say, oh, when English people speak, American people speak,
I
great. Then my colleague is from Ireland or my
Yeah.
colleague is Indian and I don't understand
Not
anything.
so simple.
You got to train your ear to a lot of different, you're kind of like training your ear with different samples of everything so that you can analyze them a little bit ahead of time, and when the situation comes up that you're speaking with someone and you've never heard their accent before, you've trained your ear on so many different accents that you kind of just get it you know
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so
Okay. Okay. Um, okay. We have a question
sure,
from Felipe. Maybe
okay,
it's from Brazil. I don't know.
maybe,
We start talking, the more confidence we gain to learn even more. I felt a lot of progress on my Italian after I started to speak frequently. Okay, because okay, he went to Italy maybe some months ago, and he doesn't speak really fluently. And
okay,
yeah, he speak
yeah, yeah,
about he felt a lot of progress on his Italian when he start to speak a lot.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, I want to draw the comparison. You can read as many books as you'd like about coding,
Okay.
and you can study it as much as you want, but until you get your hands on and get a text editor and write actual code, and it will not be the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you watch I don't know if anybody experienced this starting to learn code. You watch this tutorial, you look at it, oh, great. Now you closed it and it's time to type your code and you don't even know where to start.
It's not so simple
Yeah, it's not so simple. And that's the same with the
for
English,
a
right?
language.
I mean, how many people have actually been learning English for years in
Yeah,
school?
a lot of people.
And then you ask them something simple like, sorry, I'm looking for this place. How can I get there? And I don't know. That's the answer. You don't even know. That's the lack of speaking practice. It's kind of like
We have
saying,
another question. Sorry, Logan.
go ahead.
Okay. The question is, what is the minimum English level for working for a remote company from Italy or also not from Italy?
Sure, sure. That's a very valid question, actually. I would say that in my experience, I've met people that think very differently. Most people are kind of fall into this first category, which is they think their English is terrible and they're definitely not ready. They're nowhere ready. Um, and I would say most people are actually already almost there. And what I mean is their conversational English level is probably just enough. They might just not know specific technical things in English, which for a developer can be really like stupid stuff, just like curly braces and square brackets and just like specific terminology, or just saying, oh my gosh, I've never talked to someone about how I solve my code.
Yeah.
I've never done that with anyone in English. So if I were in a team and there was some problem, and maybe I'm a senior or I'm a junior and I need help, or I'm a senior and I need to help someone, how do I communicate with them while I'm thinking, trying to solve the problem
Yeah.
in a foreign language? And that's specifically what I usually work with my students is we kind of do these simulations of trying to solve some code together and thinking out loud in English, which can be challenging. And that's about practice. And you do it for maybe a couple of weeks or a month, and sooner than later you're ready. Now, sometimes I also see the overly confident people, although in my experience of teaching over like 200 people, that's only happened like maybe twice. And these are people that I barely can understand what they're saying. And they're like, my technical skills are so amazing, no one will care. And
Okay.
so unless you are very, very like very amazing, I mean, maybe you are. I would say still you're in a team. So I think even if it's besides just the work environment, I think you want to be able to joke with a colleague, right? You want to be able to connect. Whoops, sorry. You want to be able to connect with other people. And how are you going to connect with people if you are not able to communicate, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure. Okay. We have another question is, what is the recommended amount of time between English lessons?
Mm, right. Again, this is personal preference, meaning just like with coding boot camps, some people prefer the intensive, right? They do
Okay.
like 3 months, like
8
10
hours
hours a
a
day
day.
coding, right? And then there's people who are like, no, I have my goal is 2 years from now, I want to start interviewing for international companies.
Okay.
That your time frame is gonna be, and the amount of work you need to put in is gonna be very different from someone who says, I got contacted by an English company and I have a interview in 2 weeks. Depends on who you are, right? And so how like long term is your goal? Of course, the more you speak, the more you
For
increase your
sure.
vocabulary, right? The less time it's gonna take, right?
So another question related to this is, how long does it typically take to study English from scratch to success?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the most
So
common question maybe.
no, yeah, from scratch. I've had some students that are really from scratch, meaning they have a hard time saying I'm from this country. So, of course, the first step would be, first of all, start with a tutor that speaks your native language. That would be the number one, because at the very beginning, you're gonna need that
Okay.
hand, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I did for Spanish, is I found someone who would speak English at the same time. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Maybe.
yeah,
You
yeah.
like.
No,
Okay.
no. And so, but besides that, if you're a very beginner, I would say intensive can be good. That's what I did for Spanish, right? So I would took actually a conversational class once a day, 5 times a week,
Okay.
right?
Okay. 1
And
hour?
then 1 hour. And then plus, this is something that maybe is a bit underrated, but make your environment as whatever language you're learning as possible.
Okay.
So entertainment in that
Yeah.
language,
Yeah.
conversations in that language, and then try to the most important information, the every time you find a word. But listen, this is important. I see people who literally any word that they find, they save and they kind of want to memorize it. Think, how often am I actually going to use this word? If the answer is often, meaning you use it often in your native language, add it to your flashcard
Okay.
application.
Okay.
If not, don't waste your time on it. You're a beginner. That's not what you need.
Yeah.
Remember, we're working towards the 2,000 to 3,000 words. And we want those words not to be extravagant. We want those to be useful words, right?
Common, normal
Right,
word.
right,
Or maybe
exactly.
related to your works if
Exactly.
you need
The
to.
ones that you're going to actually find, you use 90% of the time. 10% you can use Google Translate, right?
Yeah. Quillbot or Grammarly.
Whatever you prefer. Yes, exactly. Those are very useful. And again, the thing is, try to communicate and have that connection with other people in that language as soon as possible. Because connecting with another person in their language, it's just amazing, right? Being able to communicate and get to meet people from all over the world because of different languages, that's awesome. And that's what's going to
Yeah.
motivate you to keep going,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
You're right. Okay, Logan. Maybe we are going to close our
sure.
wonderful talk. And ok, possiamo iniziare a parlare italiano? Così,
Okay, okay,
così facciamo
okay.
vedere che sei veramente parlare italiano, altrimenti
Sì, esatto, esatto, non è
sembri
non è uno
veramente
stile.
sembri italianissimo tu, la prima volta che ti ho
Sì, sì,
sentito.
esatto, certo. No, vabbè, comunque mi ha fatto piacere. Spero che le cose di cui abbiamo parlato possano essere state utili per le persone.
Comunque questo live rimarrà nel nostro canale YouTube, metteremo il tuo link per chi è
Perfetto,
interessato a fare delle
certo,
lessons sulle talkie con te. Eh,
certo.
thank you very much, Logan.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.